Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Brian O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Hello, listeners to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. This is Brian O'Rourke, your host, and today, this is going to be our first podcast of 2018, by the way. We have a very, very special guest. I would call him a pretty good friend, but even a more admired colleague. That's our buddy Chuck Runyon, of course, one of the co-founders of Anytime Fitness, which has over 3,000 franchises around the globe in over 20 countries. And, you know, with his recent book, he and Dave both love work, which I highly recommend. We're going to have a nice chat today, and we hope you enjoy. Chuck, thanks for being on the call and spending time on the podcast.
Brian, thank you very much. And before we get started, I'd love to publicly thank you for two things. Number one, you continue to contribute to the improvement of this industry. You've been involved in the ILC, the Industry Leadership Council, which kind of shapes public policy to promote and protect the industry. And if you're still serving on the IRSA Board of Directors. So, I mean, thank you for that. And then number two, if for any listeners out there, Brian continues to provide thought-provoking content through all the social media platforms, something I've enjoyed over the years and continue to enjoy. So just wanted to say thanks for both of those.
Wow, that's a big deal coming from you. And you're so gracious and generous. I'm a little flush with your kind words, but I appreciate it. I don't know if you remember, and you could find it on my website, we met in March of 2013 when we talked about bifurcation. And you argued that it was called quadrification or quadrification, not bifurcation. Remember that?
That's right, yes.
I love that. It always thought-provoking yourself, very much so. So, Chuck, thanks again. And best to Dave as well, who's always so gracious when we see him at the various events that we get to see both of you at. But if you don't mind, I know this book, Love Work, and I know that you both are big into this idea of a high-performing work culture. I've read it. I find it very, very both practical and inspiring. What led you both to think about creating the book in the first place?
Well, I mean, we've had some success here, of course, for Anytime Fitness, and we've now grown this into our parent company called Self-Esteem Brands, which also has Waxing the City, a body waxing studio franchise. And we've got some various divisions here, and of course, we've got the global portion of our brand. And early next year, we will open up club number 4,000 in China. You know, it'll be actually 33 countries and 5 continents. And so we're proud of that. But, you know, we believe, you know, the secret to that has been to create a very high performance culture. And, you know, in addition to our success, I keep reading these Gallup surveys that 70% of people drive to work every day and they are unhappy or what I would say emotionally neutral with their job. And I just think that it's very sad to me to think that we devote such a large chunk of our lives to working and 7 out of 10 people don't like it. They don't enjoy it. They don't enjoy what they do and maybe they don't enjoy who they do it with and they don't enjoy what the company does. That actually just fascinates me. Because I just can't imagine devoting so much of my time and energy to something that I didn't love. And so, quite honestly, we wanted to just share this book with other leaders or other, you know, influential people at work so they can help shape their culture to make it a place that is not only high performance, but a place that people drive to work and they want to go to. Is our little way of saying, hey, look, we want to help you get to a better place at work. Because if you go to work and you're happy and you leave work feeling gratified, that improves, right, your personal life. Heck, I think improves your sleep. It's like anything. We just want to help them, right, get to their best place at work. And so we believe there's some components of that book which will help people do that.
It's a great book. I love on page 15 where you both say that your promise is you'll never have to miss life's most important moments, which I think is so genuine and true. In the book, you talk about a few concepts that I find really, really important. One is the employee value proposition. Can you chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, most companies are very comfortable sitting in strategic sessions and obsessing over the consumer value proposition, right? What is the product or service that we offer that's differentiating that consumers are willing to pay for? I think that's normal, right? But far too often, leaders don't sit around and think, geez, what's our employee value proposition? Why should someone want to work with us? Why should they stay with us, right? How do we attract and retain talent? And so we have a written employee value proposition. We actually share a copy of it in the book. And every single company, if you are in a war for talent or you want to assemble the right people to grow your company, you should give more thought to what your employee value proposition is. Why should someone work for you versus your competitor or someone down the street, right? Why should you win that war for talent? And so I far too many companies do not have an employee value proposition. So I hope this sparks them to think about, what is my value prop to employees, and write it down. And once you write it down, right, operationalize it in how, the resources and culture you provide for your employees.
Yeah, Chuck, you're so right. Why do you think a lot of business owners or leaders don't get that? What do you think gets in the way of that?
I think they're caught up in that antiquated thinking of I pay you, therefore you should just come here and make the business better, right? It's a passionless exchange of money for effort. And because a leader just drives work every day and all right, everyone here works for me, I pay them, therefore they should make the business better. I prefer to get their emotional engagement. I'd prefer that they really care deeply about the work and they combine their heart power to go with their brain power, because that I think is going to be the difference maker in achieving great results. So, yes, they get paid for it and they're well compensated with benefits. But imagine if they loved the work. Imagine if they cared for it. Imagine if they invested in it emotionally. Because, we're all walking around today with these smartphones in our pocket, and we're all seem to be there's a blurry line now between your work life and your personal life. And so work is becoming more of an identity with us because we're answering emails, after dinner. And so the values of the organization are also sometimes show up in the values of who we are. And so I want that to ring, proud and loud with our employees that, look, what you do during the day is part of who you are. It defines you. And hopefully we can find people with our shared value system.
You're making a lot of sense to me. I hope other people agree. Now, another concept here, and there are many of them, so I don't want to shortchange. I want to move on to some technology discussions. But the last thing I wanted to hear you explain to the audience is a bit about the idea of undertime and what's the thesis behind undertime.
Yeah, for years, and this came to me because the franchise industry was so concerned with overtime. Some regulation coming down the pipe for overtime. I'm like, what? That's really not our biggest concern. Every leader's biggest concern should be undertime, which is when you're paying your employees, but they're not really working. They're distracted. They're on Facebook. They're online shopping. They're doing something besides working, and you're paying them for it, right? And every single company in the world, including ours, has undertime. But as a leader, your job is to minimize it and, of course, drive engagement with your team to get them engaged with the work. And so, I make an example in the book, but if we had to record undertime, the amount of time that our employees waste, it would be the single biggest expense on the books. One of them, the biggest single hidden expense. And so once you become aware of it, you're like, gosh, as a leader, I'm really in the game of engagement. I've got to drive engagement from peer to peer with the project, with the work, with the purpose. And if you can crack that code and your team is more engaged than your competitors, I promise you are going to win in the long run. Yeah,
very, very true. I agree with you so much. And so in the context of culture and these ideas like employee value proposition and undertime, we here in the Fitness Industry Technology Council and in general spend a lot of time on the subjects of technology and then automation and other things, in the fitness space today and in wellness and betterment. So tell us, what are your thoughts on technology and automation, in particular, the idea of humans versus tech? Tell me your thinking about that today.
Yeah, where we're going in both our corporate office as well as how we think about consumers is, we want to automate things that are what we'd call maybe low skill and low impact, right? And amplify, the relationships we have with our consumers and even with our employees. And so how can we, personalize? How can we make it faster, easier, cheaper for our stakeholders? Yet we don't necessarily want to replace the human component, right? We want to automate some of the simpler things, but just amplify the important things, right? The relationship that comes from understanding you, right? To really understanding where you are and where you want to get to, the motivation, the education, sometimes that little pat on the back, or something that little personal touch that you need. And so we want to be able to serve up to our coaches the right time with the right content to make sure that we are, helping people along their journey. And we do the same thing with employees. So to me, it's not, humans versus technology. It's how can technology empower humans to be their very best, right? To be the most human. That's kind of the approach we're taking.
Yeah, it's the right approach. As things become automated, what's truly human is going to become, and I think we both agree, more and more valuable. Ideas like empathy, ideas about really caring, all those things are going to be increasingly valued. And I think, and that you all pursuing this, you touch on some of this in the book, is the real winners in the space, we believe, are the ones that are going to figure out how to automate that low-value kind of work and make it work really efficiently and well, and be able then to invest more and more into their culture and people that face humans to add that value. Isn't that kind of the secret sauce as far as a blueprint for brands like yours is?
Yeah, one of the books I read last year, and I loved it, was by Thomas Friedman. It's called Thank You for Being Late. Yeah, talking about globalization and technology and climate change, et cetera. There's a term he used in the book, which I really identified with, called STEMpathy. Science, technology, engineering, and empathy, right? So STEMpathy was such a cool word. And you and I have had a few fun conversations about artificial intelligence, and I think I remember that comment I made to you about, hey, look, it's going to be quite some time before they create artificial empathy. And I think, of course, you took the view of it's coming faster than you think.
Right.
But I just like that term of STEMpathy, where science and technology meets empathy. And today, and at least for some time in this industry, right, empathy is going to come from another human being who really understands you, connects with you, and more importantly, can unlock the undeveloped potential you have in yourself. And I'm telling you, most human beings are walking around this place with undeveloped potential. They're inside of our health clubs. They're inside of our workplaces. And what a leader and a coach does is they seek to understand what's holding you back, and they unlock that with you. And guess what? When you can reach more of your potential, you are deeply thankful to the person who helped you. And that's when I look at science and technology and empathy, that's all we're trying to do, is to get you to be your very, very best.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And when you look at, I think we chatted about this when we chatted recently, the kind of history of any time in that regard, and I think you had a little experience. I think you were in Southeast Asia not that long ago with the Anytime brand at one of your events. But the story behind Anytime really does entail technology from the very beginning, the very idea of what you do. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah. We're so enamored now, and we take technology for granted. But, back in 2000, when we're coming up with the idea for Anytime Fitness in, late 2000, 2001, the technology that enables our brand today didn't exist. We had to create the access and surveillance system, this key fob technology, which, seems very ordinary by today's standards. But again, back then we were still, uploading information and saving it with floppy disk, right? We launched Anytime Fitness before the first iPod. There wasn't an iPhone, and there wasn't, Facebook or social media. So back then it was a pretty big deal to have a key fob that could get you into a club 24/7, and the club sometimes wasn't staffed. And by the way, as a reminder for all you listeners out there, the vast majority of industry experts and consultants and everyone we knew said the model wouldn't work, right? That people wouldn't join because they were unsure about safety or unsure about, service. And so it's just a reminder, right, that you can't necessarily, innovate through focus groups or feedback, because people aren't always good at telling you what isn't, what doesn't exist. So, thankfully we didn't listen, and we kept plugging along. But this key fob today opens up every club in the world, right? Soon to be 4,000. And I was at the Southeast Asia conference recently, and, again, even I take it for granted, because people would come up and say, hey, thank you, because this key fob has given me independence. It's given me freedom. It's changed my life through health, because I started going to your club when it wasn't very busy, because I felt intimidated because I was overweight or I was out of shape or I didn't know how to use equipment. Or, because now I own an Anytime Fitness in my country, right, in Thailand, right, I can now provide for my family. And so, sometimes you forget, you think this key fob is about accessing a club, but it's really about a transfer of freedom and independence and enriching someone's life. And so, again, it's what does technology enable you to do? And yeah, we're going to digital key access and all that stuff, but it just brought me back to the foundation of, look, why are we creating technology in the first place, right? To let it be a tool to help people, right, reach a new area of their life.
Yes, exactly. Using tech for the sake of tech is never a good idea. And I think that history teaches us something here when you hear words of wisdom from you about the reality that, when you're innovating, you've got to really be careful not to listen sometimes to what everyone else is telling you, because it keeps you from experimenting with what could be possible.
Yes. You're going to fail. I mean, when's the right time to continue on? And, there's the art of like listening too much and listening too little. I don't know if I've got the right answer for that, but, I bet you more innovation's been stifled because people listen too much than by listening too little. So I don't know. It takes courage. And, hopefully some entrepreneurs out there can just remind themselves that there's going to be a lot of critics, a lot of people who say their idea won't work, but, keep plugging along.
Yeah, I agree. The greatest products and services in our industry space haven't been invented yet. So what in general, though, could you share a few tidbits in your mind about technology in general with respect to health and fitness? What do you think? I mean, I know you read a lot. I know you see a lot going around the world, and of course, working on the brands that you all have founded. Tell us about, some of your general thinking about where we are with respect to tech and health and fitness.
What I'm hoping it does, I'll tell you how I hope it transforms things within our industry. Right now, generally, people have a very low body intelligence. They just really don't know how their body works. They don't know enough about their body. And we're starting to scratch the surface at this whole quantified self movement. But I think where we're going is we're going to give people, you see this now in like some body scanners and some other things coming to market. And as you mentioned, Brian, there's our best innovations haven't even been created yet. But I do see a point in our future where we can give people a very easy and quick way to understand where their body is today, how it works, and to give them the intelligence to become the CEO of their own health, right? Give them the intelligence and the tools to really understand it and take control of it, because we've got to demystify how your body works. So I love what we could do there to empower individuals. And then I also like where in the ability, if you look at the medical industry, they're funneling so many dollars towards prevention. They want to get to a place where they're empowering people and it's outcome-based and there's collaborative health between various stakeholders. And the only way to really do that is to have trusted data that you can share. And so, I think where we're going with our industry and their industry is an ability to share data that we trust, that we believe in, that collaborative partners can now work on outcomes for the patient. And so we can empower not only the individual to take control of their own health, but we can empower different industries to be far more preventative. And so that's what I'm enthused about when I think about data, when I think about personal technology, when I think about the convergence of two industries that have been a little bit it's taking too long for them to come together. So I just look at those as being great opportunities for us, the fitness industry, to position itself and to, of course, be very opportunistic to bring more people in and change more lives.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's so much going on. And, like you point out, we've talked about it before. I mean, it's still a bit in its infancy. You hope in the podcast we did a few weeks ago on Betterment, you hope that it comes sooner than later because of the potential upside. It's so huge for the industry space. So I'm just hoping that we have some even smarter people out there working on getting it to become a reality sooner than later, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know you're a big fan of the Internet of Things, but look, there will be a sensor in every single piece of device and equipment in the club, and we're going to have wearables that are going to be better, et cetera. But the beauty is really they got to come into a very simple and elegant interface that a consumer can step on or intuitively have that just makes it really easy for them to manage their health and understand their health. And a coach too, right? We've got to serve the coach up, so the coach is can do this at scale, and so. Who's going to provide, who's going to unify all that disparate data, and who's going to provide the interface that can now both activate the coach and activate the member and serve that up to the medical profession? I don't know, but I'm bullish on the fact I think it's going to come at some point, and that's going to unlock some opportunities for all of us.
I agree. And you're, it's kind of catching you with this question off guard maybe a little bit, but would there be a couple of things that you would generally advise help club operators or fitness professionals around tech in general? Any pearls of wisdom you might share?
Well, I mean, I think you got to play the long game. I mean, you have to make some investments, and you don't have to create it yourself. I mean, I think there are more than ever before. There's just some excellent vendor partner opportunities out there for you to buy this versus having to build it.
Yeah.
I would just really prioritize. I think it's still caught up, and look, I'm guilty of this sometimes too. See the next new shiny idea. But if you think about where every company is going, right? They're trying. It really comes down to 4 words. They're trying to take a product or service and either make it faster, easier, faster, easier, cheaper, or more personalized. And you got to pick a lane that you're going to play in. And so, are you going to try to make it cheaper? You're going to try to make it easier. You're going to try to make it faster. You want to personalize it. And then once you pick that lane, right, that offers some differentiation, you can start to make the right investments to say, all right, we're going to play in this area and try to do this better than our competitors, and therefore we got to drive the investments necessary to give our consumers X, whatever you choose to do. So I think you got to be just very careful with your strategy. That in turn tells you where to prioritize, where to spend the money, and then where to put your energy towards. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, people have to think about how they want to compete. In the context of what their capabilities are, and invest in ways that fit that. You can't do everything for everybody, and I think your breakdown is very, very pragmatic, because folks get preoccupied with the new shiny thing, as you said, and sometimes that's not very relevant to your business model or your customer, for that matter.
So, it's funny you said capabilities, because, I'm a big believer in self-awareness, right? Knowing yourself, what you're capable of, and how others see you. Sometimes I do think leaders get caught up in not really being like, they don't have the business awareness around what their brand or what their business is capable of. And so you sometimes get in a situation where you're making investments in something you really can't live up to. And, being brand aware, operationally aware, sometimes isn't easy to do, just like being self-aware. But I think there's something there. What are you capable of, and how can you really differentiate in a very crowded industry? Those are tough questions to ask yourself and tough questions to answer.
They are. They're really tough. So one final question, Chuck. You've been very kind with your time, and I know everybody's going to love listening to this. They already have. Given that this is going to be published in the beginning of 2018, so we're almost to Christmas. But I wanted to ask you about the golden ticket idea. Where did that come from the book? I thought that was pretty cool. The outfits and the videos, they're pretty original. Where did that come from?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's the purple ticket, because, of course, Anytime Fitness is our brand color is purple. But in January, we're going to do a whole second wave of purple tickets. And so when people order their book through Amazon, right, inside some books will be a purple ticket that's going to invite the recipient to a special 2-day event. It's called Love Work, our summit here at our headquarters in Minnesota. And we're going to talk about love work, applying that both in your personal life and, of course, in your professional life, and have some fun along the way. I promise you that. And so if you think about it, that kind of comes from the Willy Wonka movie, where Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, right, he got the golden ticket out of his candy bar that he ordered, and he was invited to the Willy Wonka factory. So very similar. My partner Dave and I have had a little bit of fun doing some videos that are a bit silly. But yes, for anyone listening to this, order your Love Workbook through Amazon. And by the way, if you order a bundle, we give some incentive. But once you get that book, look inside, and if you get a purple ticket, we will be seeing you in April at a special 2-day event that's going to be as fun as heck.
Well, for a number of my organizations that we work in and invest in, we're buying a bunch of them. I think I sent you a note on that. So I hope maybe I get one, or one of our people gets one. That would be a lot of fun. What a great idea. Chuck, I want to thank you so much. You've been such a friend over the years, and thanks for spending time with our audience and sharing your viewpoints. Everybody, check out Love Work. Much respect to you and Dave and the Anytime family. You can follow Dave and Chuck, both of them, on Twitter. And I'll be sure to be tweeting to them in the coming days. And Merry Christmas to you and yours. And here's to a fantastic 2018 with your 4,000th Anytime Fitness opening in China in that year. Fantastic news.
Brian, thanks again for all you've done for Anytime Fitness and for the fitness industry. Have a prosperous 2018, my friend.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. This is Brian O'Rourke again. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. The podcast is brought to you by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, as well as my company, Videri Ventures, Moon Mission Media, and others. We hope you enjoyed the content. Please feel free to share it, and join us again soon when we bring to you another leader in the fitness space talking about technology and what it means to our industry. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again very soon.